We all have secret locations that we escape to when life begins to get tough, when we feel like this world is too much to handle. For some, this escape is in a secluded room in a house. Or for some, this escape is on a couch in a cafe right by a fireplace, just seeing the buzz of people walk by. For others, this escape is more so mental, that's not confined to actual physical beings and physical structures, such as windows or walls. It's all within the human mind. It's all within your thoughts. You see, for me, it's a combination of both. It's a combination of an escape that's both physical in nature and also mental. For me, it's going to runway 23 at the Toronto Pearson International Airport, where I have the perfect line of sight of seeing planes take off and land directly above my head. You know, the sheer gust of wind that's generated from the engines of this plane tends to catch me off guard and tends me to cause me to lose my balance at times as well. And it's that exact moment in time when I'm caught off guard and when I lose balance that it reminds me of exactly why I'm there in the first place. You know, the planes fly so low that I wish if I was only a few inches taller or could jump a few inches higher, I could actually touch these planes. You see, in my life, I've always been fascinated by aviation. The fact that a man-made machine can take off from one strip of land in one corner of the world and travel thousands of miles and land on another strip of land many, many hours away, perfectly in the middle of the runway, continues to amaze me. You see, when I was a kid, I would always look up into the blue open skies and would see jet streams. This cloud in a very clear sky, clear blue sky, but there's one cloud that's ripping through the open skies that's caused by planes traveling at hundreds of miles an hour, thousands of feet up in the air. And as a six-year-old kid, I would close my eyes, spread my arms like wings on a plane, and lose myself in thoughts. I would think to myself that one day, when I get older, I'm going to be a pilot when I grow up. One day when I get older, I'm going to fly planes. But better yet, you know, one day when I get older, forget flying planes, I'm going to be a plane when I get older. 24 years later, I'm 30 years old now. You can all see me, I'm obviously not a plane, even if I spread my arms like wings like how I used to do when I was a 6-year-old. But there have been many times in my life where I felt like I have been an actual plane and I've been a pilot in my own journey, in my own life. And I'm definitely not a pilot in real life. I'm actually an auditor working at an accounting firm. So far from being a pilot, but there are many times in my life where I've flown planes recreationally, purely because of my passion for aviation. You see, 30 years later, when I look back at my life, and I look back at the times where I closed my eyes and I thought of myself as a plane or becoming a pilot, I've come to realize that the power of your human mind is immense. Your human mind is the one place in this world that no one can control. Your human mind is the one place in this world that completely belongs to you and yourself only. You control your thoughts. You control your desires. You control your ambitions. You control how wild your dreams are going to be. My dream was as big as I wanted it to be, quite literally speaking. You see, when I would stand there at runway 23, which is my physical and mental escape in life, I would often think about and reflect upon challenges. Challenges in the sense that what we face on a day-to-day basis. And you know what? Regardless of your age, gender, ethnicity, religion, cultural beliefs, spiritual beliefs, where you're born, where you're raised, which family you're born into, who you surround yourself with on a daily basis, how big your house is, how small your house is, what car you drive, how many zeros are in your bank account. Regardless of how rich or poor you are or how amazing your life currently is at this very moment in time, each one of us is going to face some form of challenge. And whether that's voluntarily or involuntarily. You might think, why would anyone want to face challenges voluntarily? Why would anyone want to take risks voluntarily? Why would anyone want to go to their escape, whether it's that physical place or mental space, voluntarily? Well, I'm that crazy person that likes to take risks voluntarily. I'm that crazy person that thinks and knows that I can only grow so much as the people around me grow. I'm the only person that I believe that I think that I can only grow if I can only come outside of my comfort zone. If I can start making the uncomfortable zone around me feel comfortable, that's when I know I've grown as a human being and grown as a person. You see, I've spent a lot of time at my workplace, coaching, mentoring, supervising, leading, recruiting, interviewing, teaching, coaching many Generation Y and Generation Z cohort individuals, millennials, people younger than them, people older than them. And one thing that I'm realizing is that these individuals, most of them, not all, are afraid to take risks, are afraid to take on a next challenge. And the underlying theme behind that is because everyone fears failure. When I stand behind runway 23, I think about this quote. When I'm actually facing that risk, when I know failure is right in front of me, I go there and I think to myself that, you know what, Henry Ford once said, when everything in this world seems to be going against you, when everything seems to be going against you, just remember that the airplane takes off against the wind, not with it. Think about that for a second. The airplane takes off against the wind, not with it. That giant machine that takes you off from North America and carries you to Europe, it takes off against the wind and not with it. And when everything in this world seems to be going against you, let's rephrase that a little bit. When your friends, your family, your coworkers, your educational setting, your professional setting seems to be going against you, just remember that the airplane takes off against the wind, not with it. You know what? There are many times in life where you're going to be bound with the fact that you're going to have to take on your next risk. And you're going to have to go through your own pre-flight checklists. Think about the last time you were at an airport, looking outside the window and seeing your plane taxiing on towards your gate, parking right there, offloading passengers, and you're anxiously waiting to board your plane. Do you realize and do you understand how much meticulous attention and preparation is required for that plane before it takes you off to your next destination? Let's think about that for a second. The offloading of passengers, the rotational of crew, the offloading of luggage, fueling the plane up. Did you guys know that, when you and I go to Esso or Petro-Canada, wherever we go to fill in our gas, we fill our gas tank up from 0 to 100. There's no plane in this world, regardless of which corner it's going to take you to in this world on a plane, it's never going to fill itself up from 0 to 100. It only fills itself up to the extent that it can get you from point A to point B in a safe manner, and there is a little bit of reserve that the plane keeps within itself just for any emergency purposes, and that's it. Because a weight of a plane increases the cost. And then you board the plane, you're sitting down, you're buckling yourselves up, you're seeing the air hostesses and the air hosts all kind of going through the safety procedures, and you see your luggage unloading. The fuel's all loaded up. You're ready to go. What you don't see are the pilots right in front of you, going through their own very pre-flight checklists, setting the flaps of the plane for optimal speed, figuring out where the plane is balanced, and figuring out how fast the plane needs to take off at in order for it to actually take off against the wind. Figuring out the route. Did you guys know that before a plane actually takes off, the pilots actually pre-program the plane, figuring out how it's going to get there from point A to point B, which vectors it's going to follow, what altitude it's going to fly at, which areas to avoid because of harsh weather. But we all don't see that because we're sitting in our seats. The second the pilot takes off the plane and engages autopilot, technically that plane can actually land itself and guide and navigate through the open skies towards exactly the journey the pilot had entered into the computer system, without the pilot even touching the controls again. Yes, the plane can actually land itself in the middle of the runway on the other side of the world because the pilot has pre-programmed the flight, and all the pre-flight checklists have been completed. I want you to think about that for a second. Pre-flight checklists. So sure, I may not be a plane, but the way I like to lead my life and the way I like to think about my life is similar to before a plane takes off. I go through my own pre-flight checklists every morning. How many of you guys do that? You see, I've only realized that for me to actually come outside of my comfort zone and make the uncomfortable start feeling comfortable, for me to take on the next risk, for me to take on the next challenge, I have to know myself as a person. And the only way to know myself as an individual, to know what motivates me, to know what inspires me, to know what keeps me going, to know what my comfortable is defined as, and to know what my uncomfortable is defined as, I need to go through my own very pre-flight checklists every single morning that I wake up. And you see, growth is not bound by time. I found out that I needed to do this only the last 5 years of my life. It doesn't matter if you're 25 years old, 35 years old, 55 years old. It takes everyone their own very much amount of time to get to know themselves as who they are as individuals. And as I go through my pre-flight checklists, I've come to realize that before I take off on my journey for that very day, there are 4 guiding principles that I adhere to every single day: competition, time, failure, and self-belief. You see, remember how I said that there are people that voluntarily take on their next challenge? Well, for me, I hate waking up every morning. I hate waking up every morning because, well, for one, I love to sleep. And the other one being that I hate the fact that I challenge myself every single day. Because I know that when I wake up, I'm going to challenge myself on one of these 4 guiding principles. I'm going to figure out how to beat the competition. I'm going to figure out ways to fail and then to overcome failure. So let's jump into that for a second. Competition. Let's start off with the first guiding principle. You don't know how many times in my life that I've heard people say, Fahad is too competitive. Fahad, you're one of too many. Fahad, your peer group is too strong. Fahad, 1,000 people apply, only 100 get selected. How are you going to be one of the 100? How many times have you heard that in your life? And over time, I've come to realize that the competition is not what people define it for me. It's how I define competition to myself. What I've come to realize over time is that the competition is not the person sitting beside me. It's not the person right behind me. It's not all the 1,000 people around me. It's me and myself. It's the person inside me. And the second I can recognize and defeat that competition, I know that success is going to be right around the corner. And success is how you define success to be. Similar to how you don't want people to define your competition for you, don't let people define success for you as well. Because success is how you define it to be. I tend to mute, I don't care about what other people say. I don't even mute their voices. I mute the voice in my own head that tells me that I can't do it. That's the only voice that I care about. And the second that I can mute that voice in my head that tells me that I can't do it, I know that I can. And the second that your head, the way you think, your mouth, the way you talk, and your heart, the way you feel, are all aligned as to what you want to get out of your day, what you want to accomplish out of life, all of that is aligned, trust me, success is right around the corner. Again, success is how you define it to be. Time. Time is the most valuable asset that we possess, but it's probably the one we take the most for granted. You see, we live our life, and I still live my life, and it's very unfortunate, but I still live my life in a way as if, to me, time is indefinite in nature. And regardless of our cultural beliefs, our spiritual beliefs, our religious beliefs, time is finite for every single one of us. What we don't know is that when that time is going to end. How many of us realize that when we wake up that morning? When we go through our pre-flight checklists, how many of us think about how we want to spend time that day? I'm in a business type of background. I'd like to think of my time as money. And we've all heard that phrase, time is money. So how many of us think about investing time in the right people, in the right places, in the right activities, such that your return on investment on your time is great? And it's not only beneficial to you, but it's beneficial to every single person around you. Because you're only going to grow as quickly or as slowly as your community around you grows. So don't be selfish with your time. Invest it in yourself, but also make sure you invest it into people around you, into your communities. You see, time is the one thing in this world that can fly without wings. And I want to make sure that I'm on that journey that time is on. And I want to latch onto that journey. Because I don't want it to fly without me really investing my time in the right people and places and activities every day. And that's part of my pre-flight checklist when I wake up every morning. Failure. Who you see in front of you today is someone standing tall, someone standing strong, someone that may appear to be very confident. But what you don't see, and what you don't typically see when you look at any individual, is how many times they've fallen only to pick themselves back up, stronger and taller. Let's go a little bit of history on my failure. I failed 12th grade. I got a 35% average in 12th grade. And the best part is I'm a chartered accountant. Guess what my least score was? What was my lowest score in 12th grade the first time I wrote it? Was in accounting. Not even math, it was in accounting. The exact designation that I have right now. I'm supposed to be a master of accounting, master of the business world. But I had failed 12th grade and my lowest mark was in accounting. I applied to all the universities when I repeated 12th grade again. And I got rejected from every single one. You name any university in Canada, I applied to it. I got rejected from every single one except McMaster. And when I was at McMaster and I knew I wanted to become a chartered accountant, I applied to every single accounting firm you could possibly conceive of here in the GTA and also outside of the GTA. Your big firms, your mid-sized firms, your small firms. At the end of the day, it was only one firm that gave me an opportunity, and that was PwC. At PwC, I wanted to become a chartered accountant. We have to go through 3 exams. That was the old process back in the day. I failed one of the most critical exams through the whole CA process. But that's the beauty of failure, is that it motivates you, it humbles you like no form of success ever can. When I failed 12th grade the first time around, I got a 35% average. The second time I wrote it, I graduated with a 93%. And I thought I was going to get into every single university in Canada. But there was only one that believed in me, and I just need one opportunity in life. When I applied to all the accounting firms, I thought I did everything I was supposed to do in university to get a job, to get an interview. But again, it was only one firm that believed in me. I didn't care which firm it was. I just wanted one opportunity to run with. And I knew that I already had failed 12th grade, so failing one exam in the process is not going to hold me back. And right now with the firm, that didn't hold me back from being double promoted twice, being one step away from becoming a partner at the firm. And that is all started, that whole ripple effect was started from me failing 12th grade. You see, failure humbles you like no form of success ever can. And it motivates you, it drives you like no form of success ever can. So when I hear people out there, when I'm mentoring individuals or when I'm directly supervising them, and they're telling me that, you know what, I don't like coming outside my comfort zone because I'm afraid I'm going to fail. I tell them to look at me and think of me as an example, because I failed miserably all my life to get me to where I wanted to get. And self-belief. This is the most important platform from which everything begins. How can you defeat your competition? How can you invest your time in the right places? How can you overcome failure if you don't believe in yourself? You see, self-belief is where you transition over from the journey of becoming a passenger to a pilot in your own life. And as a pilot of your own life, sure, we may not be planes, but there are going to be many times in our lives where we're lining ourselves up on the runway and there's a lot of rain, there's a lot of fog, there's a lot of headwind coming towards our own plane in our life. And it's up to you as a pilot to decide whether or not you're going to abort takeoff or to realize that you can only take off against the wind and not with it. Thank you.